Hey everybody, it's Bill Varney from FishToSurf.com and your saltwater guide with your Thursday, May 29th surf fishing report. So once again, surf fishing remains great this last week. Let's start up north in Santa Barbara. So there was wind about 10 days ago in Santa Barbara that really turned the water over. Didn't make it so cold, it really came back quickly, but it did churn up a lot of eelgrass and kelp and stuff and a little bit of red tide. Most of that's all moved out, and the good news this week is there was some excellent halibut fishing up in the Santa Barbara area, and I know a lot of that has to do with those grunion coming in close, and then also there is a huge body of anchovy really all along the California coast, but particularly up in that Santa Barbara area that for sure is bringing that fish in. And although the sea bass and the striper were slow this week up there, the halibut continued to be good anywhere from that Hope Ranch area all the way up to UCSB, all the way up to Goleta Pier area, all in that zone. Hermosa, all along there, had some good surf fishing for halibut. And those fish were caught basically on Lucky Craft hard baits, Battlestar hard baits, and then also on strips of squid had been used up there. All of those things along with white flukes fished on the drop shot have all been effective in that area. I was kind of surprised this week I didn't hear of any halibut from the graveyards area. Maybe nobody's fishing down there, but certainly there's halibut down in that area right now after 4 days of grunion runs just ending last night. So Santa Barbara remains good for surf fishing for perch. The perch are smaller now. We're probably in that 8 to 12 inch range, as many of those big females now have spawned and they're probably resting somewhere or hiding for sure. So surf fishing continues to be good up there in Santa Barbara. And then as we make our way just down the coast slightly to Carpinteria, not a lot of reports from Carpinteria, although the reports I've received is that there are a ton of sand crabs there, and somebody needs to get down there and fish. I know that they've been seeing some corbina around there. This is typical for this time of year. They'll continue to feed in that area, and actually the numbers will grow as the summer goes on and the water warms up. But seriously, somebody get down there, fish somewhere between the lifeguard headquarters, which is south of the entrance there, all the way down to the oil pier. The best time of day is right in morning light, so right when the sun's coming up in the morning or right in the evening. There's two bays there that are right past the lifeguard headquarters. They are traditionally good for using soft shell sand crabs, and maybe even a Lucky Craft or a Battlestar there for big corbina. So look for that to be good. And then just right down from that, the Mussel Shoals, La Conchita area, it continues to be good there. There's halibut being caught there, perch, caught there, and those perch are once again in that 8 to 12 inch. Some walleye surf perch, smaller of course, caught in that area. Fishing continues to be good down there. And I want to remind everybody, with all this anchovy offshore, traditionally in Santa Barbara, both on East Beach and there at La Conchita and right above the Rincon there, has been really good salmon fishing for coho salmon. We'd have to go back to 2008 since the last time I caught a salmon off the beach in Santa Barbara, but they may be there again this summer and spring, so we'll just have to keep our eye on that. You can't keep them, it's all catch and release, but certainly a very exciting fish to catch in the surf. And then when we make our way down to Ventura, I mean, Ventura is the absolute epicenter of surf fishing in California right now. It's amazing. Now, both Oxnard and Ventura, and above Ventura, at Ventura Overhead, Ferrea, that area, they have been dealing with dirty water from red tide, from kelp floating around, and eelgrass, all of those things for really like over a month, for quite a while. That seems to be clearing up now. There were so many corbina caught, I would say, over the last week or so in Ventura, more than any other beach in Southern California. They were caught on the fly, they were caught on bloodworms, they're caught on soft-shell sand crabs, which there are a ton of, both at East Beach and all the way down there in Ventura. There's lots of soft-shell sand crabs. But corbina fishing continues to be really good there, and what is kind of a surprise is even in some of the dirty water areas, the corbina were still biting as they were feeding very close to shore, eating those sand crabs. So once again there, the yellowfin croaker bite is good, the walleye bite, the BSP bites, all of those bites for perch remain good, and that will continue with those smaller fish for sure. Anglers have been using Lucky Crafts, Castmasters, bloodworms, sand crabs. Those have been the main baits in those areas. And then when we make our way down to Malibu, not a lot of reports out of Malibu, but I did have some condition reports. And the conditions were that onshore or near shore, and then in some spots offshore, particularly up around the Point Magoo area, there was quite a bit of red tide there. Now, I really think that probably in the next 10 days, we're going to see these swells continue to come up from the south. There's a big one happening today, and they will continue to push warm water north, which is going to push that cold water out. And of course, when we have the cold water upwell, especially when it's surrounded by warmer water, it will almost always produce that red tide because it pushes up all that plankton that blooms, and that's what creates it. So that should go away probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks, I would say, as we make our way closer to summer. And then when we go down to the South Bay, well, as promised, as we talked before, that Hermosa beach zone, really from King Harbor, the Redondo breakwater there, all the way up to the Hermosa Pier, particularly between there and about 10th Street, remains to be a good spot for corbina. One angler getting 3 in one session, 2 in the next morning. So good surf fishing there for corbina. There's tons of soft-shell sand crabs and sand crabs in that area. I really suggest, and this is a great suggestion for all beaches, is if you can go a day before, collect sand crabs. And if I was in Hermosa or Manhattan, I'd just go right underneath the pier at high tide and try to catch them there. If you can catch them, grade some down to the right grade for soft shell, which is about the hardness of a pop can or a beer can to push it in. That's about what you want to look for, not too hard, not too soft. And fish them the next day. You'll have a lot of success there at the beach. And these corbina are really biting all day long in all the different tides. They're very hungry. They're very in close looking for those sand crabs. So once again, Hermosa remains good. And then as we make our way down to Redondo, this bite in Redondo on yellowfin croaker, it was good last summer. I don't know if everybody remembers that. It's good again this year. Just yesterday or day before, a fish over 3 pounds, a yellowfin croaker over 3 pounds, caught on a white fluke, was landed in that area. So Redondo continues to be good. I think you're going to see from Redondo Beach all the way down to Rat Beach. So Redondo, Torrance, and Rat Beach, those 3 areas, will continue to be good. Although we don't have a lot of reports in that area about corbina. Corbina fishing traditionally is good at the avenues in Torrance and down toward Rat Beach beginning this time of year. So find some crabs, whether they're there or maybe go to Hermosa, get the crabs, bring them down to Redondo, fish them there. I think you can find a lot more corbina down there in the next week or 2 or so. And then when we make our way down to Orange County and to Bolsa Chica, really from, Surfside, where the Huntington Harbor is, all the way down to the Wedge, that whole zone has been really good. When you go to Bolsa Chica, for example, the halibut fishing there has been absolutely unbelievable, with one angler last weekend getting 7 fish, 5 halibut over 22 inches, and another angler right next to him, maybe 10 or 15 feet down the beach from him, got a 30-inch halibut. Both of them were using Lucky Craft or Battlestar hard bait lures. Those have been working really well down there. And of course, those white flukes and white swim baits, those continue to work too. But when you're looking at Surfside or Bolsa Chica, Huntington State Beach, or down to Newport, the perch fishing has been really good down there for the barred and for the walleye surfers. So continue to bite all the time. They're biting on grubs, on gulp baits, cut squid, bloodworms, mussel, all of these different things, ghost shrimp. Those are all working down there right now. But remember, once again, those, you're going to get a whole bunch of those fish because they're smaller fish. A lot of those big females have spawned. They've gone back into hiding or back into their spots to probably rest, would be my guess. And so look for a lot more fish, but smaller fish. And in that same zone too, you've got yellowfin croaker, you've got the perch, and then there's a few spotfin croaker that have been biting down in those areas, particularly around the Newport jetties. And those are really keying in on bloodworms. They love those bloodworms. So Orange County continues to be good, and there's just so many sand crabs around everywhere. I'd really concentrate right now on collecting those soft shell sand crabs and fishing with those. Another thing too about this corbina fishing, and whether it's up in the South Bay or Ventura or San Diego or Orange County, all along our coast, this time of year really low light periods of time are going to be your most productive times. Doesn't mean that they're not going to bite in the middle of the day. They're out there and you'll see them looking for food. But when the light is really high, it's really easy for them, especially the big ones, to see your setup. And so your sinker or your leader, or that your sand crab is not one of the billions of sand crabs with no hook in it. But when there's low light, like right when the sun's coming up in the morning, or maybe an hour or so before the sun goes down in the evening, much more difficult for them to see your setup and much easier for you to have a chance of catching them. And then when we make our way down to San Diego, you know, there's been corbina all along the San Diego coast. I got a number of reports this week saying that, wow, you know, we're seeing corbina everywhere. They're just not biting. The anglers who have had luck on corbina in San Diego are those who've gone to sandy beaches, like Mission Beach, for example, and collected soft-shell sand crabs there, and then imported them, quote unquote, to, let's say, up by Carlsbad, where it's partly rocky and there's hard sand up there and there's not as many sand crabs, and they've had a lot more luck with the corbina there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a place like Mission Beach, which was really hot this week for fishing, just has so much bait on it, it's a lot of competition for you, whereas when you take the bait to an area where there's a lot less bait available, you have a lot less competition and you know the fish are out there looking for it. But Mission Beach this week was just amazingly good. There were barred perch down there, there were walleye caught, there were yellowfin croaker, just about everything's biting down there, and most of the anglers were using either bloodworms or soft-shell sand crabs. And then one last thing, as we make our way into the San Diego Bay and really outside the bay and around the rocks that are both on Mission Bay and San Diego Bay, those areas, the bite on exotics has been crazy. This week, a nice sized triggerfish was caught in San Diego Bay. We've had short fin corvina down there, orange mouth corvina, bonefish. Now is the time, springtime is the time to fish in those back bay areas. That's when you're going to see these exotic big fish out there. Believe it or not, they're here. They're maybe not in as big of numbers, so we don't catch them as often, and a lot of people don't target them, but some of those exotics are here, especially in back Mission Bay and back San Diego Bay where the water is warmer. So just a couple last things. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter, please go to fishthesurf.com. It's right on the top. Just put in your email address. We don't spam you, but every single month I send you out a detailed surf fishing newsletter with tips on it, fish reports, conditions, all of the information you need to be a success down at the beach. Our next Grunion run is going to be June 11th through the 14th. Once again, we're still in this period of time where it's an observation period. You not only can't take them, you can't even touch them right now. So remember that, but if you have kids and you want to go down and observe them, or you want to figure out where they're coming in so you can fish there the next day, that's the dates to go. And I think that's a Wednesday through a Saturday, so a great time for families certainly to get down there. And then one last thing is, don't forget, if you need surffish tackle, check out surffishtackle.com. And here's a product I've got on there. People love these. These are the Crab and Goes. They come in 2 different sizes. They're very light. They weigh 5 or 6 ounces each. They clip right to your belt. They're very easy for you to just dig right in the sand, wash the sand out, and you have sand crabs right in the bottom of them that you can just clip to your side and use for bait. So you'll find these at surffishtackle.com. And I'd just like to thank everybody for all of their reports. Over the last 5 days alone, I've had over 40 reports. I really appreciate it. Please keep sending your reports to me. You can send them to my email, fishthesurf@mail.com. They'll come directly to me. I really appreciate that. That's very, very helpful. So thank you so much for watching. And until next week when I see you right here, good luck at the beach.